The summary of life and the moment of decision. I am 82 years old. If I were to write down everything life has taught me, the pages would never be enough. But today, among all those lessons, there's one that still sits in my throat like a knot. Moving into a nursing home. When you grow old, you learn to accept certain things. Your body slows down, your friends fade away, your memories multiply. But there's one thing you never get used to. When the silence of your home is replaced by a foreign silence, you lose your place in life. My story may not be like yours, but believe me, our feelings pass through the same places. Loneliness, longing, regret. They all deepen with age. In my youth, I was strong. Every morning, I'd wake up early and go to work. My wife would prepare breakfast, and I'd pat my children's heads before leaving. Our house was small but warm. Our laughter was etched into the walls. Then years passed. The children grew up, drifted into their own lives. My wife fell ill. She fought for years, then left quietly. That day I understood. A house isn't made of walls, but of the voices of the people you love inside it. When she was gone, the house fell silent. Even if the radio played, it was still quiet. Even the ticking of the clock reminded me of loneliness. But I kept living. I learned to find joy in small things. Brewing my morning coffee, chatting with the grocer at the corner, watching the sunset from my window. Those were my little pieces of happiness. One day my daughter came to visit. We hadn't spoken so seriously in a long time. She looked at me, wanting to say something but struggling to find the words. Then she said, "Dad, it's not right for you to live alone anymore." She looked away. "We're worried about you. You'd be better cared for in a nursing home." Something inside me broke at that moment, but I didn't show it. "I'll think about it," I said. But that sentence kept echoing inside me. You'd be better cared for in a nursing home. But I didn't need care. I needed life. That night I couldn't sleep. I stared at the shadows on the ceiling, and my past played before my eyes like a film. My wife's laughter, my children's first steps, those hectic, beautiful days we spent together. Then came the present, a lonely room, faded curtains, a silent table. I thought to myself, maybe my daughter is right. Maybe I'd be safer there. When you grow old, you start justifying your loneliness. It becomes easier to deceive yourself, so I did. I told myself, maybe I'll make friends there. Maybe I'll live more regularly. Maybe it'll be good for me. But somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, "Don't leave your home." The next morning, I made my decision. I called my daughter. "All right," I said, "I'll move into the nursing home." She was so happy. There was relief in her voice. "Don't worry, Dad. It's a wonderful place. Everyone is so kind. There's a garden, activities." I smiled. But inside, another piece of me disappeared. The day I moved, the sky was dark and heavy, as if it didn't approve of my decision. As my belongings were packed into boxes, it felt like my years were being packed away with them. That armchair, I'd held my grandchildren in it. That teacup, my wife and I had shared countless evenings with it. Now they all sat quietly inside boxes. My daughter was beside me, but I couldn't speak. What was stuck in my throat wasn't words. It was goodbye. I held the door handle a little longer before leaving. It felt like it might whisper, "Don't go." But it didn't. It closed silently. As I got into the car, I felt strange. Part of me thought, I'm starting a new chapter, but another part asked, or is this the last one? From the outside, the nursing home looked beautiful. A big garden, flowers at the entrance, smiling staff. My daughter held my arm and said, "See, Dad? Isn't it lovely?" I just nodded. We went to my room, small but clean. A bed, a closet, a window. but I wasn't there. My scent, my books, my chair, my memories, none of them were there. Before she left, my daughter hugged me. "You'll be so happy here, Dad," she said. "Of course," I replied. But when the door closed, silence fell, and in that silence something broke inside me. Small but deep, maybe hope, maybe courage. I looked out the window. A few elderly people were sitting in the garden, drinking tea without looking at each other. A wheelchair creaked. A cane fell to the ground. No one spoke. Only the wind. And then I realized I had come to the wrong place. That first night I couldn't close my eyes. A dim light glowed on the ceiling. Footsteps in the hallway, a faint cough from the corridor. It wasn't sleep, it was waiting. It felt like a hospital. But worse, because I knew this was permanent. I thought I heard my wife's voice. "What are you doing there?" I couldn't answer. Tears ran down my face. The only thought that crossed my mind was, I wish I'd had the courage to stay lonely, but not to leave my home. In life, we make many decisions. Some small, some big. But some decisions, once you make them, there's no going back. Mine was one of them. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the curtains. A new day had begun, but it didn't feel like mine. A nurse knocked on the door. "Breakfast time," she said. But I didn't want anything. Still, I got up, washed my face, and sat down. At the next table, an old man looked at me. "Are you new?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "I arrived yesterday," he nodded. "I came 3 years ago," he said. "You'll get used to it." But in his voice there was no comfort, only tired acceptance. That day I made myself a promise. I wouldn't accept everything. I would miss my home, cherish my memories, but I wouldn't lose myself. What I didn't know was this. Time wears down even the strongest resistance. Through the first days and the weight of silence, the first few days, time passed in a strange way. Neither fast nor slow, just empty. Days all looked the same. Every morning, the same breakfast at the same hour, the same polite, "How are you today, sir?" The same smell of tea, the same wall color. Everything was orderly, but there was no life in that order. At home, waking up in the morning had meaning. I'd make my coffee, open the curtains, listen to the sounds outside, the chirping of birds, the hustle of the street, the distant voice of the bread seller. All of it said, "Today you're still here." Here, there was only silence. No birds, no laughter. Only the tapping of walking canes. When the nurse knocked in the morning, that small knock, followed by the cold air that entered, always reminded me of the same thing. I wasn't alone anymore, yet I had never felt so lonely. "Are you ready for breakfast?" she'd ask. I tried to smile. After a while, I forgot how to even try. There was no reason left to smile. The same faces sat at the table every day. One buried in their newspaper, another stirring tea silently, another staring into the distance. Occasionally, someone would say, "It's a nice day today," but no one answered. That phrase vanished in the room. I would sit at the edge of the table, untouched plate in front of me, and think, who were these people once? Perhaps a teacher, perhaps an engineer, perhaps the only child of a mother. Now all of them were in the same place, under the same silence. I never heard a harsh word, but I didn't have a real conversation with anyone either, because the silence here didn't come from words, it came from life itself. Days never seemed to end, but evenings were the hardest. Everyone would retreat to their rooms, alone with their past. The television played old shows, but no one really watched. I looked out the window. Streetlights glowed, shadows stretched. If I heard a car pass, I still thought, maybe my daughter is here, but she wasn't, nor did I expect her to be. Only the habit remained. One evening, an elderly woman came to sit beside me. Her name was Wilma, short-haired, delicate, quiet. "What book do you have there?" she asked. "I pretend to read," I said. "I pretend to listen," she smiled. Silently we agreed. Here, people lived as if. That night we talked at length. She had been an actress in her youth. "You never forget the sound of applause," she said. "Now, even if someone calls you, you don't want to turn around, because no one is really calling anymore." Those words pierced me. Perhaps we were all the same, once applauded, spoken to, loved. Now, only faces forgotten. Third day, fifth day, 10th day. Time lost all meaning. I stopped marking the days on the calendar. Here, you don't lose days, you lose yourself. The same morning, the same meal, the same medicine time. Momentarily, everyone seemed the same age. Tired, silent, resigned. One morning, I watched the rain fall outside the window. At home, I would have gone to the balcony and reached out. Now I could only watch. When you cannot touch the rain outside, the rain inside never stops. One evening at dinner, Wilma sat at the next table. Her head bowed, I was eating in silence. Suddenly, she said quietly, "I miss making my own soup in my kitchen. Everything is ready here, but nothing has taste." Her words cut through me. I had said the same thing in my heart countless times. That's when I realized it's not food, rooms, or sounds that we miss. It's being our own selves. Everything here is done for you, but nothing is done by you. And that's when life loses its meaning. One day Wilma didn't come. I asked, "Where is Wilma?" "She was taken to the hospital," they said. No one spoke of her after that. From that day on, when I went to the dining hall, my eyes always found the empty chair. It whispered silently, "Everyone disappears one day, and no one notices the empty space." One morning, I looked in the mirror. The lines on my face deepened. The light in my eyes dimmed. It seemed this place changed a person's very face. Under my eyes, not sleeplessness, but hopelessness had settled. Suddenly, I realized I could no longer call myself I. I was merely a living person, the new gentleman, number 82, the uncle at the table. Names are forgotten here. Soon, everyone becomes just a shadow. One morning, a little sparrow landed on my windowsill. Tiny gray. It looked at me for a moment, then flew away. Perhaps trivial, but something stirred inside me. "I can still feel," I said to myself. "Then I am not completely lost." At breakfast that day, for the first time, I asked for something of my own accord. Could I have some honey? A tiny thing, but it felt like I had changed worlds, a choice that was mine. Perhaps this was the only way to survive here. Remember yourself through small choices. That night, lying in bed, moonlight passed in front of the window. I closed my eyes and thought I heard my wife's voice. "What are you doing here?" I didn't answer. I whispered, "Just resting a little." But inside, a voice said, "You're slowly disappearing." And with each passing day, it grew ever more true. 3. Losing independence and the beginning of acceptance. A person's freedom isn't taken away all at once. It happens gradually. Without noticing, it starts with small things. One day, someone else pours your tea. The next day, someone arranges your pillow. Soon, no one asks you anything. They just do it. And you can only say, "Thank you." That's how it started for me. In the first weeks, I still resisted. "I can do my own work," I said. But then I realized even saying that felt tiring. One morning, I tried to button my shirt. My hands couldn't manage it. A nurse came and said, "Let me help." Something inside me cracked, small but audible, once I dressed myself. Now someone else dressed me. "Thank you," I said, tears in my eyes. I realized a person doesn't truly feel old when they receive help. They feel it when they must rely on it. One day, I wanted to make tea myself. I walked to the kitchenette, but a staff member said, "Sir, you need permission." Permission. For a cup of tea, a fire ignited in me, but it soon died. I wasn't strong enough to carry it anymore. That's how it happens. One day you ask for permission, the next day you stop asking altogether. And eventually, you stop longing for anything. Every morning, someone knocks on my door. "Good morning, medicine time." At first I said thank you. Then I only nodded. Because nothing here happens according to your wishes. Meal times, medicine times, sleep times, walks, all scheduled. And you are just a line in the schedule. One evening I wanted to go out to the garden. A staff member blocked the door. "Where are you going, sir?" "For a walk." "It's closed right now. You can go tomorrow morning." Tomorrow! I felt a surge of anger. It was as if my life had always been postponed. But I stayed silent. No. Here was an unquestionable end. I stood at the door looking outside. The sky turned orange. A breeze stirred the curtain. For a moment, it reminded me of the curtains at home, the ones my wife had sewn with tiny flower patterns. Suddenly, the smell of my old home came back. Tea, soap, warm bread. I wanted to step outside. But the staff was still there. So I looked through the window and whispered, "Maybe tomorrow." But I knew tomorrow would never come. One morning, I sat on my bed and made a small rebellion. No one would notice, but it mattered to me. I decided not to go to breakfast. Hours passed. No one came. No knock, no check. That's when I realized the system controlling you doesn't notice you. If you stop being part of it, it silently leaves you out. Late afternoon, a nurse came. "You didn't come for breakfast." She sounded like she'd found a missing file. "I'm fine," I said. "I didn't feel like it today." She smiled. "All right, we'll make up for it tomorrow." And left. In her leaving, I saw myself. No anger, no resistance, only the slow rise of acceptance. Another elderly man, William, came to my room. "I'm new here," he said. His face seemed familiar. Perhaps all elderly faces start to look the same. We sat in silence, drinking tea. He asked, "How is time passing here?" I paused. Finally said, "It's passing," because it really was. Neither fast nor slow. Just passing. William nodded. "I thought I could never get used to it," he said. Then one day, I realized I had no choice but to get used to it. That sentence shook me, because I was at the same point. No one here truly gets used to it. They just give up. And after a while, giving up is called getting used to it. One morning, I woke with a strange calm. No rebellion, no anger, just acceptance. I went to breakfast, drank tea, glanced at the newspaper. No headlines interested me, no dates mattered. The outside world seemed to exist on another planet. Here we were in another time. That day I was honest with myself. I could no longer make my own decisions. And perhaps the most painful truth, even realizing it, I had no power to change it. Losing control over your life is like standing in a storm without an umbrella. You resist for a moment, then the wind carries you away, and eventually you stop even caring which way the wind blows. I no longer asked where I was going. I just kept going. 4. Being forgotten and becoming invisible, days flowed like water through a narrow canal. The same corridors, the same faces, the same silent rooms. Yet slowly, imperceptibly, something deeper began to shift. Not just routines, not just freedom. Our very existence started to fade. At first, it was subtle. A nurse would enter the room without noticing me. A visitor would glance at the wrong table. A name would be forgotten or mispronounced. You smile politely, correct them once, twice, and then you stop. Why fight to be remembered? No one here truly notices. I walked the hallways one afternoon, watching other residents move like shadows. Some shuffled slowly with canes, some sat in wheelchairs. All faces, all postures, carried the same quiet despair. I noticed an empty chair in the corner. No one sat there, but for a moment I imagined someone had been there. The emptiness was louder than voices. People here don't vanish all at once. They disappear in layers. First, their belongings are removed. Then, their habits. Then their laughter, and finally their name. One day you are just number 82 or the gentleman by the window. Not a person. Not even a shadow. Wilma's chair remained empty for days. No one mentioned her. I realized being forgotten isn't loud. It is silent, unnoticed. And silence is the heaviest burden of all. One evening I overheard a conversation. Two staff members whispered about a resident who had passed away. No one spoke of it to the others. No announcement. No acknowledgement. I felt a strange chill. Here, death is a quiet eviction from existence, and yet life continues. Meals are served. Televisions play. The routine never stops. Time doesn't mourn. Time doesn't pause. Time just passes. One morning, I discovered the true horror, invisibility. I called out for help, and no one responded. A staff member walked past, barely glancing. The air itself seemed to swallow my voice. I wanted to scream, to shake the walls, to demand, "I am here! I exist!" But I didn't, because shouting changes nothing here. And silence. Silence is the only shield left. I began to speak less, walk less, move less. It wasn't laziness, it was survival. Being invisible becomes easier than fighting to be seen. One night, I thought about home. I remembered my own bed, my own kitchen, my own light, the scent of old books, of morning coffee, of rain on the balcony. And suddenly I wept. Not for home, but for the person I used to be. The person I no longer recognized. Some residents never stop being invisible. Others, like Wilma, vanish entirely. You can see their absence in the empty chair, in the empty corridor, in the forgotten name. Yet even in this quiet despair, small sparks survive. A smile shared, a glance returned, a word spoken softly across the dining hall. I clung to them, because they were proof I was still human. I was still here. I learned to accept invisibility without surrender. I could not control the world outside my room, nor the routine that dictated my every hour. But I could hold on to my memories. I could still choose to think, to feel, to remember. And in remembering, I resisted the complete erasure. Sometimes when the hall is empty, I whisper my own name aloud. It sounds strange, even foreign, but it reminds me, I am here. I exist. Being forgotten is not just about others' memory. It is about your own. And I decided I will remember myself even if no one else does. One evening, a sparrow landed on the windowsill again. The same gray, delicate bird. It reminded me, life goes on outside these walls. Even small things can carry meaning. Even in silence, even in invisibility, we can still witness beauty. And so, I survive. Not as a number, not as a shadow, but as a living, breathing memory. The world may forget me. The walls may erase me. But as long as I remember myself, I am not gone. 5. The fading purpose and silent decline. One day, you wake up and realize it's just another day. Monday or Saturday, it doesn't matter anymore. Time here isn't measured by the ticking of the wall clock, but by the trays of food served, the echo of footsteps in the same corridor. You no longer wait for morning nor dread night. You simply say, one more day, but within that day there is nothing. No anticipation, no excitement, no tasks. Once, if someone asked me, "What did you do today?" I would have so much to share. "I pruned the roses in the garden," I'd say. "Did you hear that old song on the radio?" "I bought a new book." These small things reminded me I was alive. Here, if anyone asked, though no one does anymore, my answer would be, I ate. Then I sat. That's it. No creating, no sharing, no learning. Just existing. And sometimes just existing feels exhausting. The most painful moment in a person's life is realizing they are no longer needed. I experienced that for the first time here. One day, while a nurse was tidying my table, she asked, "Shall I throw this away?" On it sat a small notebook I had kept for years. My words, my memories, tiny little sentences. The pages yellowed with age. I held it in my hands and thought, no, it can stay. But a quiet voice whispered, "You've stopped writing anyway." Yes, I had even stopped writing. The small habits that once gave me life had become meaningless, because there was no one to tell. Here, the days are copies of one another. The same tea, the same bread, the same conversations. Some watch television, some sleep. I just look out the window. A tree stands outside. I watch its seasons change. Green in spring, shedding leaves in autumn. Its falling leaves mark another year gone. But even whether years pass has become irrelevant. I go nowhere now. I wish to reach nothing. One day, a new resident, a woman named Victoria, sat beside me, quietly knitting in her hands. "What are you making?" I asked. "A scarf for my grandchild," she said. "How lovely," I replied. Then I fell silent, because I realized I had no one left to knit for. No grandchildren, no children, no spouse. All ties had been severed. When one is cut off from connections, one becomes rootless. You stand tall, maybe, but rot inside. Some nights I sit in the dark, my room's light off. It brings me peace, because in the darkness all is equal. No one demands anything of you. No one calls for you. You just are. One night I whispered, "I think I spend more time reflecting on life than living it." Yes. Life slowly transformed into the past tense. I no longer say, "I am living," but "I have lived." The difference is subtle but deeply felt. Under my pillow, I found an old handkerchief of my spouse. Its scent was gone, yet I seemed to remember it. I held it, closed my eyes, and for the first time I realized I was not afraid of death, because sometimes living is more tiring than dying. At times I talk to myself, sometimes with my spouse, sometimes with my past self. Once I looked in the mirror and asked, "Who are you?" I really asked. The face staring back was unfamiliar. The man who once had light in his eyes was now just a dull gaze. Losing yourself is like losing the world, and I could no longer find myself. But then a quiet voice said, "Yet you are still breathing." Yes, I was breathing. Perhaps that alone was reason enough, a chance to see another morning sky, another sunrise. One morning, a little girl came into the dining hall, drawing colorful pictures for the residents. She handed me a paper. A simple flower, but it moved me deeply. "Thank you," I said. She smiled. "Can I put it on your wall?" "Yes," I replied. Since that day, I placed that drawing on my wall. Every morning I looked at that flower, and the little girl's voice echoed in my ears. "I drew this for you." Grandpa, perhaps surviving is that simple. feeling someone still notices you, knowing someone did something for you. That day I realized I am not completely gone, because if one can still smile at a drawing, they are not entirely lost. 6. The silent deterioration of body and mind. One morning, I woke up with a trembling hand. I ignored it at first. Old age, I told myself. But soon I realized standing up in the morning had become a decision. Sitting at the edge of the bed, I felt my knees shake, my heart slow. Waking up, once a habit, had become a duty. A person never forgets the moment their body begins betraying them. No matter how much you accept it, the ache remains. The body that once carried you with strength now struggles to support you. Each morning reminds you, you are no longer who you were. One day in the dining hall, my soup slipped from my hand. It spilled on my shirt. A man across the table looked at me. No words, just pity in his eyes. I thought, what has become of me? At home, I could walk, cook, live independently. Here, even holding a spoon feels like losing self-respect. Someone immediately helped. "It's okay, let me change that," they said. I said, no need, but it was too late. I had entered the category of in need of help. The weight of that label cannot be described in words. One night, I feared falling in the bathroom. I had lived fearlessly all my life, climbed mountains, walked at night, danced in the rain. Now entering the bathroom required planning. Will I slip? Should I ask for help? I whispered to myself, how strange. Once I carried life on my shoulders, now I can't even carry my own body. One morning, I mixed up names. I called Victoria Carolyn. She smiled. No problem. I spent the day blaming myself. How can I forget? I realized forgetting was no longer in my control. Memory was slowly fading, like an eraser from the inside. Some days I couldn't clearly recall my spouse's face. I wanted to hear their voice, but it drifted further away. One day, I looked in the mirror and asked, what did Aishi sound like? I couldn't remember. That moment broke something inside me. Forgetting a loved one's voice is like living a second death. Time here flows strangely. Mornings resemble each other. Nights blend together. Sometimes you don't even notice it's noon. I asked a nurse, what day is it? She smiled. Tuesday, sir. The next day I asked again. I no longer cared about days. Every day is the same loop, the same breath, the same fatigue. I used to wear a watch, keep track of time. Not anymore. Time here doesn't belong to you. Minutes don't pass. They just flow like a river, carrying you without knowing where. One day I looked in the mirror. A stranger stared back. Lines etched deep into my face, eyes sunken, shoulders slumped. Is this me? I asked. I couldn't remember the last time I looked in the mirror at home. A lifetime of familiarity now felt foreign. I am lost, I thought. Yet strangely, I wasn't afraid. Just sad, because even if you lose yourself, life continues. Life is stubborn. It goes on even if you give up. One night I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned in bed. My heart beat slowly, but I felt a calm inside. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of death. It no longer seemed a dark door. I observed it from afar. A quiet voice said, maybe Clara awaits behind it. I whispered, if this is death, maybe it's not so bad. And I did not cry. Some truths are accepted not with tears, but with silence. One early morning, I woke to the sunrise. I approached the window with my cane. I looked at the sun and thought, you still rise? Yes, the sun still rose every morning stubbornly. I was old, tired, trapped in a forgetting body. But that sun seemed to tell me, you are still here? I smiled. Death had not claimed me entirely. I still had a breath, a moment, a morning. And I thought, today I am still living. 7. Dignity, privacy, and vulnerability. A person's pride ages before their heart. The voice that once said, "I can do it," now says, "Can you help me?" But this transformation is never quiet. Every help me steals a piece of you. I spent a lifetime avoiding being a burden. To my children, neighbors, even friends, "I can handle it," was my habit, but now I needed someone for everything. And when you entrust your privacy to others, you realize how fragile dignity is. Here, the room door is a boundary, but it's no longer under your control. Sometimes nurses enter without permission. "It's medication time," they say. Sometimes cleaners come in, open curtains, make the bed, and all you can say is, "Okay." One morning, the door suddenly opened while I was dressing. A young attendant walked in. "Sorry, wrong room," they said. I reflexively covered myself. I felt exposed. Then I realized my privacy no longer belonged to me. Everything in this room, including me, was part of the system. And the system does not respect privacy. Bathrooms were the hardest. A young nurse offered help. At first I said, "No, I can manage." But one day my knees failed. I couldn't balance. I had no choice but to accept help. Warm water, quiet room. But inside, a voice screamed, "This shouldn't be." To be bathed by a stranger, guided in a gentle, childlike voice. "Bend now. Stop there." I closed my eyes in shame. Tears mixed with the water. The nurse noticed, or didn't. She simply handed me the towel. "All done," I whispered to myself. "No, it's not done." I am ending. Days passed. I either learned not to feel shame or ran out of shame. One day, a new attendant asked if I needed help. I smiled. Yes, of course. I realized then, accepting vulnerability can be stronger than resisting. Pride isn't in refusing help, but in not losing yourself while receiving it. One morning, while having breakfast, someone asked me directions. I pointed, then looked at my cane. I thought, even I struggle to find my way. In old age, shame becomes a luxury. At some point, you no longer have energy to be embarrassed. Yet tiny moments still trigger it. One day, a nurse said, "Sir, we forgot your morning medicine." I smiled. It's okay. Once I lived without medicine. Now I say it's okay even when others forget. How strange. When you lose your place at the center of your own life, everything becomes normal. One day, while combing my hair, the comb fell. I bent, but couldn't. A nurse quickly picked it up and handed it back. "Here you go." I thanked her. Inside, I thought, I wish I didn't need anyone for something so small. Then I remembered. I used to comb my children's hair. "Wait, let me fix your hair before school," I'd say. Now others fix my hair. Time had reversed roles. Once I protected. Now I needed protection. Maybe life's justice is this. The care you once gave returns to you from different hands. One morning, looking out the window, the nurse asked, "Shall we change your clothes?" "No, I'll manage today," I replied. I laughed quietly to myself. Manage for today. Life was like that anyway, living each day, managing as best you can. That morning, sunlight poured in. A brief warmth stirred inside me. I realized, despite everything, I am still human. And being human means, even when you lose almost everything, you can still carry a drop of dignity, a piece of grace. I whispered silently. One day. They may forget me completely, but I will try not to forget myself. That day, for the first time in weeks, I smiled at the mirror. Wrinkled face, pale eyes, but genuine. Because now I knew, dignity is not for youth, but the gift of acceptance. 8. Looking back. A renewed perspective on life years have passed. The young, strong person once at the center of my life now sees another in the mirror, sometimes sad, sometimes hopeful, always wise. Life has taught me much. The deepest regrets, the harshest lessons, the most precious memories, all stand together in my mind. Looking back, I understand. Everything was meant to be lived. Moving into a nursing home may have been the hardest choice of my life. Losing independence, facing loneliness, feeling purposeless. These were pains I felt deeply. Yet I realize regrets show not only what we lost, but also how human we are. Independence. Yes, freedom is precious, but sometimes one must accept the limits of freedom. Within those limits, life must still be lived. Loneliness. Also a truth of life, yet it can be a doorway to the love within us. I may be far from my loved ones, but they remain in my heart. The meaning of life is sometimes hidden in small moments. A smile, a thank you, a warm touch. Sometimes, just existing is meaningful. Through the years, I've learned true peace resides within. Even if circumstances change, if I nourish my inner self, I won't lose myself. I can be at peace with life in any form. The nursing home taught me difficult lessons, but also patience, compassion, and humanity. On days when visits dwindled, I felt the depth of love. Love is more than seeing or being near. It is warmth carried in the heart. Today, even from afar, I feel my loved ones beside me. It gives me incredible strength. From the outside, nursing home life may seem like an end, but I see it as a new beginning. Every ending is a new beginning. Humans can be reborn at any age. I have been reborn. I have made peace with myself. I have embraced my pride, vulnerability, and love. And now I know life's meaning lies not in where you live, but in how you live. Dear friends, we may falter before life's hardships. But remember, the light inside us never goes out. If you are considering a nursing home or face such a decision, know this: you are valuable, strong, and full of love. Decisions are hard, regrets heavy, but every experience shapes who you are. Take care of yourself, listen to your heart, and cherish small joys. True strength lies in loving, accepting, and continuing to live. And finally, remember, every day is a chance to begin again. With love, experience, and endless hope. We want to know how you and your loved ones are doing. Please share your thoughts in the comments. We would be delighted. We can't wait to read your messages. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us provide valuable content and enrich your life. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.